Hey guys, in this video I'm comparing the Pixel 5a 5G with the Google Pixel 2 XL. Let's go ahead and get started. So the Pixel 5a 5G starts off with a price of $450, while the Pixel 2 XL is obviously an old device and it is not found in stores or on the Google website. You can get this used for under $100. You could even get it for around 65 bucks, believe it or not. So price-wise, there's a big difference, but for 450 bucks, you're getting a quality device. That price is not bad compared to flagship devices. But yeah, $450 versus a $65 device that was previously a flagship. So the Pixel 5a obviously has 5G, while the 2 XL being launched in 2017 is LTE only. Both of these phones have a similar size. You got 6 inches by 3 inches by 0.3 inches on the 5a. The Pixel 2L is just a little bit bigger. Pixel 5a weighs a little bit more at 6.4 ounces compared to the 6.17 ounces on the 2 XL. Build quality, very similar. 5a has aluminum frame, aluminum back. Pixel 2 XL has a glass front, aluminum and slash glass back, and aluminum frame, so pretty good build quality on both. Both of these have an eSIM built in, and they both have IP67 dust and water resistance, 1 meter for 30 minutes. Both of these have an OLED display with 60 Hz refresh rate. 5a has a bigger screen at 6.3 inches, 2 XL 6 inches. Screen to body ratio is different, 85% on the 5a, 76% on the 2 XL. As for the resolution, you have a 1080p display on the Pixel 5a 5G with 415 ppi, and you get a 1440 resolution on the Pixel 2 XL, which comes out to a very nice 538 ppi density. Both of these have nice screens, and both have an always-on display. Now for the software, although these are both running a stock version of Android straight from Google, the 5a launched with Android 11 and will get several updates, while the 2 XL launched with Android 8 and its last update is Android 11. So obviously it's going to have older software, but just like all Google phones, you get several years of updates during its lifetime. But it's pretty much long in the tooth with a 2 XL. As for the chipset, 5a has a Snapdragon 765G processor, 2 XL Snapdragon 835, which was a flagship in the day, which I believe was on the Galaxy S8, which was top of the line back then. 765G on the Pixel 5a is not super flagship, but it is pretty good for what it does. For storage, the 5a has 128 gigs. 2 XL had starting off 64 gigs, and neither of these had an SD card slot. As for the cameras, the 5a has two cameras in the back, 12 megapixel main shooter, 16 megapixel ultra wide. 2 XL only had one 12 megapixel shooter, and both shoot in 4K. Similar selfie cameras, 8 megapixel with 1080p video. Both have stereo speakers. 5a reintroduces the headphone jack, while the 2 XL did not have a headphone jack. It started to follow the iPhone trend with the 2 XL. Both of these have Bluetooth 5.0, and both offer NFC. Both have the Type-C for charging, and both have a similar rear-mounted fingerprint reader. Now for the battery, we do have a difference. 5a has a 4,680 milliamp battery versus the 2 XL's 3,520 milliamp battery. And you get fast charging at 18 watts on the 5a, 10.5 watts on the 2 XL. So we pretty much have the Pixel 5a 5G is basically a no compromise phone with a mid-range price, so you're practically getting a flagship device for $450. The 2 XL, when it was launched a few years ago, was a flagship for Google. I believe it was around $650 when it launched, and it's a steal today at $65 used. Now, obviously, the battery will be degraded. It cannot compare to the 5A 5G overall, but there's a lot of things that are still very usable in the Pixel 2 XL. And still still a very nice phone when you get an older flagship using it against a mid-range device. But yeah, these devices are separated by 4 years. They share a lot of similarities, like that eSIM technology. The build quality is still pretty good. They're both the same size. They both offer dust and water resistance. The display is not a high refresh rate, like 90 or 120 hertz. That's kind of a letdown. The screen is actually better on the 2XL than it is on the Pixel 5a, but that usually means that this phone is probably going to have screen burn-in, and also the battery might drain quicker overall because of just how nice the screen is. Other than that, the software is really the big difference right there, because obviously the 2XL is 4 years old, and it's already outlived its software cycle, and that's where the 5A shines. It's obviously going to be good for like 4 years too, but now you're gonna get Android 12, 13, and 14. So yeah, if you're looking for software updates, then yeah, the 5A 5G is obviously the winner. Now for the chipset, you're gonna have a lot of similarities. Older flagship chipsets actually do better and stay good for longer, as opposed to mid-range chips that are good at when it's released, but quickly slow down after a while. So I'm going to safely say that both of these are neck and neck for a lot of everyday activities, but you'll see the 5A 5G be snappier for more years to come. Now for storage, 128 gigs is pretty much the standard nowadays. 64 is getting a little bit long in the tooth, but by no means is that going to be it's still going to be usable for most people. Let me just put it that way. As for the RAM, 5A has 6 gigs of RAM, 2XL has 4 gigs of RAM. Most people won't notice the difference unless you're just having lots of apps open at the same time. And if you're just switching between apps all over the place every second, you might see some lag. But for the most part, you need to be like a very heavy user to notice that. So I would say it's not such a big deal in the RAM department. Now the cameras, that's one good thing about Pixel, is the Pixel 2 camera will stand up very good to the 5A camera, except that the 5A will have that extra ultra wide. It's pretty much the same cameras on both of these devices. Great video, great stills, great low light, great smooth video, stuff like that. But and they both shoot in 4K. There is the missing headphone jack on the 2XL, but I'm not really worried about it. People are using them less and less. But if you are one of those people that use a headphone jack, well then 5A you'll be very happy with it. Bluetooth is the same. It will still both of these phones will connect to your wireless speakers, your wireless headphones, your smartwatches, no problem. You get to use Google Pay on both of these with the NFC. You could charge the same at USB Type-C for data transfer and for charging. The fingerprint reader stayed exactly the same, rear mounted, and I actually like that. It's not a bad thing. They are very reliable and they stuck with it. And that's one of the key areas where if you have an in-display fingerprint reader, the price usually goes up. So it's a good thing. I prefer them over in-display. Besides the software, the next biggest thing is the battery. The Pixel 5a 5G has a huge battery. Finally, you get 2 days of battery life. Can't say the same about the 2XL. It's supposed to be the big model with the big battery, but it has 3,520, which is a very small battery by today's standards. For example, a lot of phones at a cheaper price point have 5,000 milliamp battery. And since you're going to get this device used and it's going to be several years old, don't expect good battery life in 2021 on the 2XL. But regardless, I mean, it's not so small like the Pixel 2, which had a 2700 milliamp battery, but you're definitely not going to be getting more than half a day of use out of it. But for $65, it's not a big, it's not a big deal. So not much has changed between the Pixel 2 XL from 2017 and the Pixel 5a 5G, except just a few key areas. So the price is good on both of these devices now. If you compare them, it's $450 for a flagship type phone, or $65 used for a 2XL that was a flagship. I mean, you get 5G on the Pixel 5a, you get a big battery, the processor is not bad, you get more storage, and you get the extra ultra wide camera. But other than that, you've got a lot of the same thing going on the Pixel 2 XL. It has a better screen with the resolution. It still has eSIM. It has dust and water resistance. You know, one of the downsides though is that the software is done. The storage is a little bit lower. The RAM is a little bit lower. Camera's still good though, like I said. Selfie camera exactly the same. Headphone jack is gone, but like I said, not a lot of people use it. Bluetooth is exactly the same. NFC is the same. Fingerprint reader the same. Battery is, you know, its biggest downfall. So you got a lack of 5G. You got a little bit of bezel on the top and the bottom. But overall, it's still a usable device in 2021. For $65, it is not a bad deal at all. But if you want a phone for the future, the Pixel 5a 5G definitely will be good for years to come. So you let me know which device you would pick up here in 2021. Is it a good deal at $450, or is it a better deal to get the 2XL at $65 used? Let me know in the comments. I hope you subscribe to the channel. It would really help me out. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.